What's happening, YouTube? I did this stream in the car because my wife is putting my son to bed, and I just couldn't do that awesome intro with that going on. I could have done it, but she would have been very, very annoyed with the noise I was making. But I figured I'd take a few minutes and I would talk to you fine people, allow some people to trickle in. I posted an article on my website tonight. I wanted to take some time to talk about it. So last night I had the opportunity to read a book that I've been wanting to read for years now, and for whatever reason I just haven't had the opportunity. And needless to say, I was not disappointed. And then, it's always extra cool when you read a book and you could apply it to a lot of things that you've experienced and you already know. And I'm a history guy, right? I'm majored in history. So I read this book and right away I was like, oh man, I'm so familiar with a lot of things that have happened throughout history, military history, that are oh, they should have applied the lessons learned in this book. But last night I had the opportunity to read The Art of War by Sun Tzu, which, for those of you familiar, was written thousands of years ago. But it has stood the test of time. And unlike what you get, right, most of us, a lot of people's perception of military strategy comes from, and this is because people don't read books, but it comes from I know what I would do. I watched Braveheart. I watched the 300. This is Sparta! Let's get 300 of us and fight an army of 10,000 men. Sun Tzu would say, that's not a good strategy. Sun Tzu would say, you could still win that conflict, but fighting head on is out of pride, it's poor decision making, to say the least. So, in The Art of War, Sun Tzu describes war as deception. War as deception. One of his quotes, and I'll probably butcher this, is, appear weak where you are strong, and strong where you are weak. And you could deduce what he means by that. Because if you appear to be weak where you're strong, right? Well, does your enemy want to attack your strength or your weakness? Now you are enticing, you're laying bait so that your enemy actually attacks you where you want them to attack you. Attacks your strength. World War II, there's so many good examples of, and by the way, at West Point, military generals all around the world, but West Point, they read The Art of War. They study this stuff. But let's talk about D-Day, Normandy, right? So when America was getting into World War II and they were going to storm the beaches of Normandy, right? All right, oh, it's such a good example. You watch Saving Private Ryan, right? And what do they depict? They depict just a head-on battle, brute-on-brute strength. America, we're coming at you. We're getting on our boats, we're flying our planes, and we're storming that damn beach. And, of course, you see the carnage and the chaos, and it makes for great film. But what they don't show is the art of war that actually took place as part of the Normandy invasion. Before America launched their invasion, they engaged in deception. They engaged in the art of war. So what they did, is very clever, is they got an army of balloons, hundreds of tanks and planes, but they were just balloons. But they looked real, they had them manufactured. They looked real, and they put all these balloon tanks and these balloon aircrafts onto big naval carriers, and they had, I believe they had General Patton was the decoy on a naval carrier with a bunch of blow-up dolls. And they sent this naval carrier with these balloons to a different area. And of course, Germany, they send their spies and their scouts out, and they saw this and they said, they said, oh, no, they said, look, the Americans, General Patton, and look at all these tanks and planes, and that's where they're attacking. And Germany divided their forces and sent them to go intercept what turned out to be balloons. And that had weakened Germany's defenses enough. I mean, listen, it's still not an ideal situation, but it had weakened their defenses enough that the American military, the Marines, the Navy, were able to storm the beach of Normandy, push through, and establish a foothold on European land. So that right there is the art of war. It's appear strong where you are weak and weak where you're strong, right? And you always want to appear strong where you're weak because you don't, right? Your opponent, your enemy doesn't want to attack your strength. You could do the same thing with World War II and talk about Hitler, right? But you know what? There's so much I could say about that, but let's just talk about what's generally known, right? Germany, why did they lose why did Germany lose World War II? What was their mistake? Does anybody know? I mean, I'm sure there are a plethora of mistakes, but the primary mistake was the division of German forces. Hitler decided to fight a two-front war. So he was fighting in the West, he was fighting against America and France and England, and they were having a lot of success, and he got full of himself, which Sun Tzu warns about, and he said, we're going to win this war with brute strength. But remember, Sun Tzu, the whole point of the book is that war is deception. So Hitler divided his own forces, and he launched an invasion into the Soviet Union. And the Soviet Union, actually taking a page out of Sun Tzu, they said, wait a second, why would we fight his strength when we could just avoid them? Which Sun Tzu explicitly talks about. He says, you don't fight their strength, you avoid their strength, you divide their strength, you fool their strength with deception. So the Russians just retreated. They said, yeah, keep pushing forward into the winter. And they actually burned down their own villages. They said, when you get to this village, there will be no resources and no food. And the German soldiers got deeper and deeper into the frozen tundra of Russia, and the Russians eventually, they were able to weaken the Germans and beat them back. Hitler didn't read his Sun Tzu, but the Soviet Union read their Sun Tzu, America read their Sun Tzu, and ultimately, it's the strategy of Sun Tzu that won the war. Now, let's go to an alternate reality, right? Let's say Hitler was kicking America's butt and kicking England's butt in France, and they were having success, which they were having success. And he said, okay, well, now we have to fight the Soviet Union. Well, what Sun Tzu would have suggested is, instead of dividing your own forces and going to fight the Soviet Union, what you want to do is fool the Soviet Union into dividing their own forces. So Hitler would have done something like, send a small regiment in to the Soviet Union and attack a town away from where the Soviets' primary forces are. That would force the Soviet Union to divide their forces and send them to the town you just attacked. But by the time they get to that town, Germany could have fully retreated from it. And now the Soviet Union's, they're playing whack-a-mole. And you could have just done this time and time again. Retreat, wear the Soviet Union down, make them use their resources, make them divide their forces. And then when they're weakened, Then you attack them with your strength where they are weak. The art of war. By the way, speaking of the art of war, have you ever wondered why Donald Trump's book is called The Art of the Deal? A book I've also read, which is very interesting when you think about the things going on in the world today. Oh, I shut my car off with my toe. How'd I do that? This guy, he just goes off on tangents. He's streaming, he's talking about all different things. The Art of War. So I read The Art of War, and I was, by the way, great book to teach about leadership too. A lot in The Art of War about how a general should handle his men, treat them with respect, treat them as if they are, and this extrapolates out to everything in life, but treat them as if they are a member of your family, and when the time comes that you ask them to die for you, they will, just like a member of your family would. I mean, that is profound, but that is Sun Tzu. And he talked a lot about how a good general has to monitor his troops and the morale of his troops. And if their morale isn't at the levels it should be, then he does not advance, even if certain victory seems to be in front of him. Because if you lose the morale of your troops, if you lose your people, you lose your war. But I'm the education guy, right? I am Classical Learner. So today on www.classicallearner.com, classicallearner.com, go to www.classicallearner.com, get your education information today. So today on www.classicallearner.com, sign up for my email list. I posted an article about the book I had read, The Art of War, Sun Tzu, and I related it to education because having read it now, every high schooler in America should read The Art of War. And it's no surprise they don't, because the controllers who run the public indoctrination system, the last thing they want is a public who understands the art of deception, the art of war. Because everything we see, right? I mean, you turn on the news, it's psychological warfare, right? I mean, we see this every day. Right now, there are lawsuits in the United States of America. There was a big lawsuit tonight, actually. So it turned out that in Nevada, in one of the biggest counties, a judge ruled that there was, I'm probably getting the wording wrong here, but along the lines of significant enough discrepancies that votes had to be thrown out. And I actually think that the winner of one of the smaller races went from the Democrat to the Republican. And of course, now this has big implications to what's going to happen with the presidential election, with everything going on in Nevada. Viva Las Vegas, the capital of counting things in the entire world, but they can't count votes. They could count $1 trillion being gambled a night, but they can't count their votes. Welcome to the United States of Corruptia. I forgot where I was even going with that. Oh yeah, the art of deception. So the media, since election night, when obviously everything's been up in the air, and there appears to have been, well, now we have a ruling by a court that there has been discrepancies. But the media, right from the start, is telling the public there's nothing to see here. The election is over. Donald Trump is being a petulant child. Donald Trump is being a dictator. Because they don't want people who aren't willing to dig and look past the basic information to think there's anything to see. That's a psychological war. But that's the art of war. That's Sun Tzu, thousands of years ago. He actually wrote a whole chapter on how spies were the most important asset of an army. And he broke it down into 5 different layers of spies, which you guys could read the book and get into the different levels of spies. But the education system doesn't want people to understand warfare, psychological warfare, just like they don't want people to understand the mechanisms used to control institutions, right? My book, Cubs to Bears, The Right to Bear Arms, which is a children's book, teaches children the mechanisms. And the mechanisms are what matters when you teach your children and when you study yourself. The mechanisms the controllers use to get the public to voluntarily disarm. So they use social shame, they use false flags and manipulations, and they get you to give up your arms. And then, of course, in the book, I always like to have a clear compare and contrast. So the animals that give up their teeth, the animals that give up their claws in the end of the book, they get conquered by Charisma Cat, who's the primary villain, the archetypal representation of government and the controllers. But when Charisma Cat comes across the bears, yeah, you know she has herself a problem, because the bears are careful with the choices they choose. So while all the other animals gave up their teeth and their claws, the bears didn't. And when she arrived at the bear den, a hook, what is it? I don't know. I lost it. A bite and one big bear hook. A claw, a bite, and one big bear hook. Charisma Cat was frightened and shook. The cat tucked her tail and scurried away. The bears did not care what she had to say. Read this again, for you have been warned. Do not surrender that which you were born. Little bears, learn from your dads and your moms. You have a God-given right to bear arms. Woo! And I'm releasing another book this week, actually. I might have a big release party. I'm releasing another book this week on the banking system, which is designed to teach children the mechanisms used to control the banking system and to get the population into debt, and how they entice people to do that with certain temptations and the pitfalls of that. And obviously a compare and contrast, because while all the other animals fall into debt, and then the pigs, who are the bankers, come back and they call in their loans and the animals can't pay them back and it's a disaster, the bears, they said, sorry pigs, but we don't want your loans. And at the end of the book, obviously, the bears were crushing, and it's a play off the creature from Jekyll Island. I got off on a tangent there. I do that. But I was talking about the art of war, and I was talking about the election. All right, so they don't want us to understand the mechanisms of psychological warfare and the banking system and whatnot. They don't want people to understand that there actually is voter fraud. Now, the question is how widespread it is. But for people that don't understand the mechanisms, the art of war, deception, they're not willing to question, wait a second, how is it possible that one candidate got 23,000 consecutive votes, right? You don't have to be a mathematician to know it's statistically impossible for one person to get 23,000 consecutive votes. And that's 23,000. What about when that same candidate got 180,000 consecutive votes? Then you learn about the Dominion voting system. And you see that now we have documented instances of admitted glitches. It's very interesting that they call them glitches, which gave thousands and thousands of Trump votes to Biden. And by the way, I don't even care about this stuff. I don't even think it matters who the president is, because, honestly, in a way, I almost prefer if Biden were the president, because the left wing loves tyranny. So they're like, yeah, mandatory vaccines. Look, I'm a good puppet with my mask. But the right wing has a proclivity to push back against tyranny. But here's the problem. When their guy is in office, they're pacified, right? All right, if Obama was in office and he tried to do mandatory government shutdowns and mandatory masks and told you to shut down your business, right-wing America would have been like, go and yourself. So, God always wins. But either way, whatever. I'm just observing the show. I enjoy the show. I do like Trump. His words are in alignment with my worldview more or not. I don't know if his actions always are. Like over the weekend when Antifa was just throwing little bombs at Trump supporters and sucker punching me in the back of the head and beating up old people, I got like a tweet from Trump. Now, how about you start rounding these people up and throwing them in prison? But anyway, I digress. I don't want to get too into that because people get very emotional about their political views. But yeah, we have the situation in Nevada. Now in Michigan, another big development. I guess the Board of Elections now is refusing to certify their results. So the Board of Elections is saying, no, we're not giving Michigan to Biden. So obviously something has to give there. So they don't want us to understand that. And that's why children don't read, high school students don't read The Art of War. High school students don't read Propaganda by Edward Bernays, another book they should all read. High school students don't read The Prince by Machiavelli, another book that all high school students should read, because these books describe the mechanisms used by the controllers to manipulate and gain power over society. Right? Now, just take it like this, right? It's like, oh, well, that's on a macro level, but even on a micro level, like, all right, this is the type of thing I talk to parents about. What type of assignment can you have your child do, your 13-year-old do, after they read The Art of War? And remember what I told you, Donald Trump's book, The Art of the Deal, it's named that because of The Art of War. Don't ever think that for a second, that is not. So businessmen really value the art of war. Well, let's say your 13-year-old reads The Art of War. Here's an assignment. I want you to go on a job interview. You pick the interview you want to go on. I don't care, wherever. I don't care if you get the job or not. Here's your assignment. I want you to research the company a little bit, and I want you to research who will be interviewing you. I want you to do a social media search on them, find out everything you can, and make a list of information that they are passionate about, that you agree with, right? You don't teach them to lie, you teach them to be honest, but information they're passionate about that you agree with, and use that to your advantage on the interview. And do the interview, and I want you to use that information to get the job. You are teaching them the art of war. And then you are generalizing that concept to how it could benefit them in life. So when they grow older and they want that job, they're not just putting out their resume on Monster.com or Indeed. They are doing research on the person that will interview them, research on the company, going in prepared, and they're going to blow that interview out of the water, and they're going to get that job. And you could extrapolate that out to so many different things that they can do with business or anything else. So that article is on www.classicallearner.com, www.classicallearner.com. When I am inevitably banned from this platform, you could find me through classicallearner.com. I got to start streaming on DLive. I've been streaming on Periscope. At Classic Learner on Twitter, but I need to start streaming on DLive as well. This way I could reach the people. But, yeah. Is there anything else I want to talk about? www.classicallearner.com. Do you, the people, have any questions? Is there anything you want to ask the education guy who read The Art of War? Is he frozen? He's frozen. Oh, I do have fun. I like doing these streams. I got to go back inside. I got the book release coming this week, and I've been working on a lesson plan, which is fire right now. I think I'm turning it into a whole curriculum designed to teach children nutrition. You want to talk about ridiculous, about the public school system, right? You'll have all these primary subjects like little Johnny needs to learn fake history, and little Johnny needs to learn to be obedient to fake news, and little Johnny needs to learn fake God science, where people in lab cults become the new priest, but we don't teach him anything about the scientific method. And the little Johnny needs to go to English class and learn nothing about grammar, pronunciation, logic, and rhetoric. But they don't teach children about nutrition. They might have like one class, and like 50% of America, I don't know if that's correct, but is like diabetic and everyone dies of cancer and heart attacks. Why wouldn't nutrition be an integral and everyday part of a child's education? Children should know what organic means. You know what I always find funny? And it bothers me. When I speak to a young person, and you tell him, oh, this is organic, and you'll see them and they'll be like, organic, ew. Now, if you understand what organic means, like, that's a ridiculous reaction. Because they don't understand the concept that organic means that a seed was planted in natural fertile soil with no chemicals. No chemicals were ever sprayed on it. It was given water and sunlight and taken care of properly, and it grew a nice, healthy fruit or vegetable. Organic. But you compare that to something that's not organic, which a seed was planted into chemically treated soil. It began to grow. It was sprayed with Roundup, which is a chemical that a court in California ruled causes cancer, allegedly. I'm going to add allegedly just in case I got that slightly wrong, because I don't want Monsanto to come after me. But allegedly, that's what the court ruled. You can go read the court case for yourself. And this chemical was sprayed onto the plant. And this bothers me too, right? When people are like, yeah, it's not organic, but I washed it under water. I washed it under water, Brett, you idiot. How dumb are you? I washed it under water. The chemical's not on it, dummy. I said, I understand you washed it under water. I understand that. But, and hear me out, and this might be crazy. Crazy thought. After that cancer-causing chemical was sprayed, allegedly, onto the plant, and then the plant was watered, that chemical went down with the water into the soil and was absorbed up through the roots of the plant and became part of the plant's internal world. And then you eat the plant and it becomes part of your internal world. Now, call me crazy, but don't you think children should understand the distinction between organic and non-organic foods? Shouldn't children know how to read the back of a food label? Shouldn't children know what processed food is? Chemically altered food? Riddled with preservatives? But one of the assignments I'll include in the lesson plan is once a month just having children pick a random ingredient on the back of a box. Food is poisoned. Yes, Cynthia, food is poisoned. I mean, here's the thing. Oh, and that's like, all right, you want to talk about absurdities. Here's all you have to know about the globalist medical establishment. He's lost the ability to talk. Medical establishment. Here's all you have to know. We are currently living through what has been deemed a global pandemic. They tell us that if we leave our houses, this is what they say. They say, if you leave your house without a mask, you are going to die, or you'll kill grandma. I have not heard the head of the CDC, the head of the World Health Organization, the corporate media, the shish bag politicians, the 400-pound health czar in Belgium, or any of these people, not once mention strategies for, ready for this? Drum roll. Boosting your immune system. And the Matrix shatters into a million pieces. You might want to go into the sun and get some vitamin D. You might want to stop smoking and drinking alcohol. Possibly take liposomal vitamin C. I mean, I'm not giving medical advice. I never would. Possibly take elderberry. Possibly take turmeric and zinc and daily multivitamins and probiotics and work out daily and go on runs. Call me crazy, folks. But that might actually be the best way of defending society against a global pandemic. But what the medical... Actually, I like that. I like the term medical establishment because they're not the health establishment. What the medical establishment says, don't worry about any of that. Don't worry about any of that. What I want you to do is go to McDonald's, get your Mickey D's, eat your burger with no meat in it and toxic chemicals, and have lots of sugar. Make sure you load up on sugar, just like they tell cancer patients. This family is not waiting to hear them tell us to boost it. We are already doing it. I knew you were already doing it because the people that show up at my channel, and not just that it's my channel, but I mean, yeah, I'll take the credit at my channel, are high consciousness people. That the very nature of you being here means you're a person that thinks about things differently, thinks outside of the box, does research. And what I really want to get to is I want everyone who follows me to really embrace the mindset of taking 100% ownership of your life. And like, I don't just talk that shit. Listen, I'm not perfect, but I haven't had a drink since March. I was always a drinker. I didn't know what was going on at the start of this. I was like, I don't know, but whatever. I'm just going to take care of myself. And if I get sick, like now I don't even think it matters. But at the time, it was like, if I get sick, I'll just beat it back with my immune system. So I stopped drinking. I've taken complete care of myself. And when you do that, you don't have to worry. You take complete ownership. But anyway, as a side note. But they'll tell you, yeah, go to McDonald's, eat lots of sugar, don't work out, make sure you watch the news all day and be really stressed out. We want you really stressed out. See what that does for your immune system. You know, put on the corporate media and they're going to tell you that every time you walk outside, you're going to die. And if your guy doesn't win the election, the world will never be the same. Let's see how healthy you are. Oh, brother, oh, brother. But yeah, we're in a pandemic, allegedly. I really stress the allegedly. Like, usually when I say allegedly, it's because I'm just protecting myself with legal liability for the stuff I say, because it's just smart to do. But this time I really mean allegedly. Like, allegedly, we're in a pandemic. It's so scary. Oh, these people, man, these people. You got to give it to them, what they've pulled off this year. I mean, what do I know? I'm just a good old history major who's spent his life studying propaganda and the mechanisms used to control society. But I got to give it to these people. I mean, they went for it. They went for it. They said, we're going to jump the shark. And for a large part, it's working. I mean, they're going to lose. We're going to beat this back with a pulp. People are waking up in droves. You know what the beautiful thing about the Tower of Babel is? For those of you not familiar, that's a reference to, in the Bible, the Tower of Babel is like the center of the devil's, I don't want to call it a kingdom, his rule on earth. Jesus is king. The cattle comply. You know what? But they just need some shepherds because, yeah, you know what? The controllers, I've really been working on this. The controllers view people as cattle and sheep and farm animals, and they treat us as farm animals. But to me, these are like that person who's my enemy, supposedly, who's scared of me because I'm not wearing a mask, allegedly, and who, thinks Joe Biden's his savior and loves Justin Trudeau, Justin Trudeau. Has a poster of Emmanuel Macron. That guy who's my enemy, like I've been really biblical with my life this year. Like he is a child of God, and like it's my job to be a shepherd. It's not my job to, like, I could mock him. I will mock him, but that's like, I only mock him as an effort to boost morale to my people and as an effort to wake people up. Soldiers are dumb animals, Henry Kissinger. Yeah, well, that's Henry Kissinger's one of those controllers, right? And they treat us like farm animals, like vaccinations. They want to vaccinate us, microchip us, put us in smart city cages. They literally treat us like animals. Feed us genetically modified food that's good for profits. To them, we're farm animals. But like my fellow man, no, that's even the person who, it's like in the movie The Matrix. Yeah, until you wake them up, they're your enemy. But no, that's a child of God. That's a child of God. But the thing about the Tower of Babel, it can only be constructed because, right, the devil has no power. The devil can only construct the Tower of Babel. And for those of you that aren't biblical, you can just view it as evil because either way it's true. The devil can only construct the Tower of Babel through lies and manipulations. But here's the beautiful part. Every lie is a brick added to the Tower of Babel. But they aren't sturdy bricks. They have cracks in them. And by the time the tower is fully built, by the time the New World Order, Babylon, takes full control, its foundation will be so riddled with cracks that it will collapse on itself. The New World Order will collapse in on itself, and pockets of freedom will spring up everywhere. But you have to do the proper preparation, right? I know these things are hard. Get out of debt. Get out of debt, because the Great Reset, that's what this is about. That's what all of this has been about. They're bringing in global communism, which it's a little more complex than that. They're probably, I would predict, my prediction is they will crash the economy. It'll be much worse than the Great Recession. When my family didn't feel good, we didn't run out and get tested for it. We just took some time for tender love care, boost our immune system. Right. My sister and my brother-in-law, right around the start of this pandemic, when we didn't know what was going on, were very ill. They had high fevers. I don't know if they had what the controllers call a coronavirus. I don't know, they could have had the flu, they could have had whatever, but they were very sick. But they didn't run out and go to a hospital. And quite frankly, that could have saved their life, because what we found out where we live is that the majority of people that died early in what's alleged to be a pandemic, they died from being put on the ventilators in the hospital. So my family members, 2 of them who felt deathly ill, I'm not saying they had coronavirus, because I don't trust what they call coronavirus. But they were sick. But they stayed home. They treated it like anything else. They cut out the sugar. They cut out the dairy. They took zinc, and they took elderberry and all the things you should take. And they beat the sickness and were fine. That's how you handle it. But the world is changing. And the tower will collapse. The New World Order will collapse in on itself. The lies it requires to build up create cracks in its foundation. And when it gets big enough, all of that weight, the foundation, the building will collapse in on itself. The New World Order will collapse in on itself. But a lot of people are going to die when that happens. But people that are out of debt, and that's tough pill to swallow. You got to adjust to the world. So selling your house and then getting something more modest, or moving to an area that's less expensive, that hurts. I'm in the process of doing that right now. I watched my son take his first step here. I remember the day I brought him home. It hurts me like hell. This isn't a house, this is a home. Hurts me like hell. But I know on the other side of that, there's something even better. Because you get out of debt, and and the best part is, it's set up for you to succeed in the world that's coming, because not only do you get out of debt, but you move to a rural area, it's cheaper, and you can get land. So when the food supply lines break down, and they're trying to get everyone to have their, what do they call it? Soy greens. What is it? Just meat, or more than meat. They're genetically modified meat with human cells, aborted human cells in it, which they're really trying to do. A Soylent Green. You can grow your own food. On 1 acre of land, you could grow enough food to feed 10 families. There is no food shortage. There's a shortage of common sense and skills. Get out of debt. Grow your food. Teach your children real-world skills. Farming, construction, how to build with their hands, architecture, engineering, plumbing, fixing things, writing, music, art, the ability to create. We are children of God. We are made in His image. We have hands. We have a mind. And they've taken that from us. Since this whole pandemic started, I've taught myself with YouTube and books. How can food... I know I have a fully stocked pantry full of jars of food that I've canned myself. When my family didn't feel good, we didn't run out... Oh yeah, I read that one. Yeah, well, the best thing is, right? If you want to climb a mountain, you don't just jump to the top of the mountain, you start with a small step. So, how can I farm? Well, you start farming with just a seed. It could be with a seed planted in a windowsill. And what I found when I started gardening 3 years ago, and I take it a lot. I take it very seriously now, and within the next few months, I'll be down south and I'll be full farming. But it is, they say getting a tattoo is contagious. Once you get one tattoo, you're going to get a lot of them. Planting seeds and growing food is contagious. All right, If you haven't had a tomato that you've grown from a seedling, you have no idea how good tomatoes are. When a tomato, like an organic tomato that you grow and pick right off the vine, is incredible. All of a sudden, there is no flu, pneumonia, strep throat, etc. Other illnesses are not even mentioned anymore. I know people who were almost killed just being in the hospital during the C-19 hysteria. Right. It's so funny. You'll get like these respected medical experts, like Dr. No kidding, Jennifer, and why aren't more people questioning that? You'll get these respected medical expert. I think Dr. Bricks, something like that. I'm going to call her doctor. It doesn't matter what her name is. Who, I guess she came out and she was like, oh, well, the flu has disappeared. Oh, has it? Oh, the flu's disappeared. I mean, you're either masked-hearted or you're a liar. I'm gonna call her a liar. Allegedly, I would call her that. I have to add the allegedly for liability reasons. But anyone knows why the flu's disappeared. Anyone with an ounce of discernment knows why the flu's disappeared. All right, guys. This has been lots of fun, but I've got to run. Lots of fun, but I have got to run. Dr. Scarf. Smash the like button. Share this link. Tell your friends about me. Tell them if they don't watch my channel, they will. I was going mainstream media. The most trusted name in news. Can I call myself the most trusted name in education? I am the education guy. I am the classical learner. Venture to say I have attempted to brand myself as the parent guide. All right, Geneva, you have a great night too. All right, guys, www.classicallearner.com. Sign up for my email list tonight. Good night.